Hold up. What did Donald Trump just say?
I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. And it's new. It's very popular. It's very hot. If you look at the market, when the market went down, that stayed much stronger than other aspects of the market. But I want crypto because a lot of people, millions of people want it.
The global race to acquire Bitcoin is finally upon us. And no doubt millions of people want to buy it. Everyone is waking up to this reality.
The natural course of government is to make the currency worth less over time, and that's got important consequences. And it's very hard to build checks and balances into the system to keep that from happening.
The current financial system has less leg to stand on than Chet Holmgren, and everybody knows it. It's funny. Without a marketing team or budget or CEO, everybody is talking about Bitcoin all around the world, all at once. From hedge fund managers on finance shows in Asia, to multi-trillion-dollar asset managers analyzing Bitcoin's reserve status, to institutional money managers and executives of publicly traded companies, to crypto bros like Rug Pull Raoul and Arthur Hayes. It's like they all know something big is happening. We're going to cover it all in a fast, action-packed episode. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. You're watching the NBA playoffs, minding your business, trying to get some peace and quiet from a long day, and then you see this ad from Coinbase.
Every day, the Fed prints an average of $465 million. That's 26,000 shipping containers a year, created out of thin air. Maybe that's why the dollar loses value over time. But there's one thing they can never print more of: Bitcoin. At the size of a quarter, this is all there will ever be. Shouldn't a store of value hold its value?
You got to ask yourself, why is Coinbase talking about the Fed? What's happening in the world to make people question the dollar and its value? You go to Coinbase.com, see a bunch of crypto tokens and crap, and move on, thinking nothing of it. You're flipping through the channels, and then you stop because you see the Shark Tank guy, Kevin O'Leary, and he's saying this.
But it's Bitcoin. I mean, if you want exposure to crypto volatility, it's Bitcoin. I mean, it's not, ETH is not the go-to place unless you start to understand the utility of it. And then you start to ask yourself, well, why am I only in ETH? Why am I not in L2s? Like, why am I just doing ETH? So I think for the billions that are waiting to come into crypto, it's not going to be ETH. It's going to be Bitcoin itself. And, frankly, there's a lot of people that say, I don't need anything else. If I want exposure to crypto volatility, I'll just buy Bitcoin. And they haven't been wrong.
He said, don't buy ETH, buy Bitcoin. Billionaires are buying Bitcoin, but you get interested in ETH. And then you look up the founder of ETH on Twitter. And here's what he had to say. Our code is too complex. We want to be more like Bitcoin. We want to right our wrongs and go back to being a simple currency and protocol for everyone to use around the world. Times are hard, though. Inflation is super high, and you want to get rich quick. And your neighbor down the street got rich off of a crypto token. So you continue to look up more crypto bros. Then you see the founder of one of the first major exchanges saying this.
So obviously I can't predict the future, but with Maelstrom's portfolio, we are max long. And so we've taken all of our excess cash and we've been buying Bitcoin from 90,000 all the way down to 74,000. And so we're not buying anything else.
The algo now realizes that you're looking up crypto tokens. And then your YouTube recommends a video with this guy whose face you recognize because he went to prison for stealing billions of dollars of people's money. And here's what he says.
It speaks volume where the US is now like 180 degrees from what they were 100 days ago, right? So Trump's only been in office for 100 days and they're now very, very pro-crypto. So the US government is smart enough now to recognize buying Bitcoin is a great thing to do. And so it's good for now the other countries will have to follow. So it's good for crypto, but at the same time, I kind of wish all the small guys buy first.
Now you're leaning in. You realize what everyone else is realizing, that everyone is buying Bitcoin and the global arms race is about to begin. You then realize, this global arms race isn't going to begin if the smart money isn't already doing this. And then you look up this video from Bitwise, a $12 billion asset manager, and then you realize that they're doing an interview with executives of publicly traded companies who say that thousands of other companies are going to be buying Bitcoin on their treasury balance sheet.
Today, there's 80 companies that hold Bitcoin, or 80 publicly traded companies that hold Bitcoin as a treasury asset. 5 years from now, if you zoom out and look ahead, how many publicly traded companies do you think will adopt Bitcoin as a treasury asset?
I expect it will be significantly higher.
It'll be thousands.
There will be thousands.
It's just going to continue to grow.
I expect that number in the future will be closer to 20%.
It's going to become central to actually how companies manage treasury.
Companies are really getting excited about this.
I think when we look back, we're just going to go like, how did people not see this?
Okay, these are all smart people. What about this hedge fund guy, Jordy Visser?
I think we're at a very different stage in Bitcoin. This is my own personal view. You could have a bunch of really smart engineers and coders come on and they're going to talk about the halving and the fact that it still matters. I'm a macro person who kind of looks at cycles from an asset perspective and from a money printing perspective. The dollar is weakening, and I think it's going to continue to weaken in the foreseeable future because most of the world's debt in the fiat system is in dollars. This adds a lot of liquidity to the system. AI is offsetting some of the liquidity, and it's making it more difficult for public companies to go. So I've kind of looked at this situation with the halving and with the cycles that Bitcoin is going to have a very different, let's say, next 2 years than what people would have expected. I'm expecting a much more significant rise for the reasons I gave before this year, just because I think the U.S. embarked on something which front-loaded the breakup of the fiat system much faster than what would have expected. And we're going to settle into a tripolar world.
A tripolar world? What the heck is that? Before you go any further, you call your Morgan Stanley guy and he's trying to explain it. And then he sends you this paper from May 5th that the research team put out analyzing Bitcoin as a global reserve currency. He says they'll call you back. And before he calls you back, we want to thank our sponsors. Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. In 2018, they knew what everyone else was already going to know in the future, that everyone would want to unlock liquidity in their Bitcoin without selling their Bitcoin. Since 2018, they've issued over $9 billion worth of loans to tens of thousands of customers all around the world. They've done so in a fast, quick, and transparent manner, which is why they have over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and you can unlock liquidity in your account in less than 24 hours on average. Loans start at just 12.4%. But for people that watch this show and go through the link learn.ledn.io/simply, well, you can get 0.25% off of your first loan. Unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling it. Our next sponsor, The Bitcoin Way, well, they help you to solve for that thing that you've heard about, not your keys, not your coin. You've heard a lot about crypto from ads that we just saw, like from Coinbase, and you see them talking about buy Bitcoin here. What you don't realize is you're not actually buying Bitcoin. You're buying an IOU to Bitcoin. In order to own real Bitcoin, you need to remove your Bitcoin from exchange and actually own the private keys. Well, to do that privately, confidently, safely, and securely, you can get a coach to help you. Members of the team at The Bitcoin Way will walk you through a step-by-step process of how to remove your Bitcoin from third-party exchanges, like Coinbase. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team at thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. All right, your hedge fund guy sent you the paper talking about how Bitcoin should be considered as a global reserve asset, and if it was held at the same capacity as other currencies, well, it would make up 12 to 17% of global central bank portfolios. But then in a weird twist, at the end of the document, they say that it's too volatile. But you don't let that stop you. Big banks always say that something new is too volatile. You then type in macro and Bitcoin into a search bar and you come across this guy, Jeff Booth, and he has this to say.
Any legitimacy to those concerns on volatility when it comes to, hey, we're looking at these stock charts every day. I mean, sovereign funds aren't there to trade.
So if you're not there to trade, then you should be in this. Right. If you're in it to trade, if you're trying to, then you shouldn't be in this. If you're levering into something that's changing the world, a new structure for the world that can't be cheated, that is repricing everything, and you're trading that, then you could get wiped out. Yeah. And that's just an early evolution of an understanding of this, that fear and greed on both sides are trying to trade this asset. But when you really understand it, you're constantly a buyer. There's never a price that's too high I buy in the low, I buy in the high, I constantly, because I don't think about the piece of paper that's being manipulated, pricing the world.
Your algo now thinks you're completely based and recommends a video to you about a guy talking from a closet with nothing in it. You think it's pretty weird, but you click on the video anyway, because you're not completely sold on this whole volatility thing.
But the second point is that risk isn't the same as volatility, because we were talking about how we can measure the risk profile of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin being an asset with a very high standard deviation is considered risky by traditional finance terms. So how do you reconcile that difference between risk and volatility in Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, I think what market participants need to understand is volatility is a prerequisite to performance. It's if I need to, David, if I walk into a building and I enter the lobby on the first floor and I need to get to the penthouse, my journey there up the elevator is inherently volatile. I'm moving directionally up. Now, we could bounce around a few floors, but if I'm going to go from the 0th floor to 100th floor, my journey has to be volatile. It's physics. The analogy that I like to tell my childhood friends is if you were to walk into a doctor to get your vitals checked and they were to say, Jack, I'm so sorry, but your heart rate, there's no volatility. You know your heart monitor is it's bouncing around. It means it has life. It means it's beating. If my heart had 0 volatility, I'd be dead. And so volatility is life. Volatility is a prerequisite to performance. And so, financial markets have invented things like the Sharpe ratio, which is, it's a ratio that represents how much am I getting compensated for the volatility. If you're whipping me around like a rag doll, but I'm not getting any performance on whatever I'm holding, well, then it's not worth getting whipped around like that. But if you're putting me through volatility, but I'm getting the best performing thing in human history, then there's probably room for that in your portfolio. Now, do you want to go $0 all in like me? That's up to you. But the idea that volatility is the same as risk is not true. Volatility is an ingredient in success. Risk is the idea that the Bitcoin network can outright fail as a technology and everything get marked to 0. And I would say under that definition, Bitcoin's one of the least risky things you can own because you can own it without any counterparty risk. I can own it without having to trust anyone but math. So if my bet is that math isn't going to get marked to 0 due to a failure, I'm cool with that risk. And then it depends, how much of the volatility are you willing to stomach given your portfolio? But the fact that it has volatility means it's alive and it can be successful. 0 volatility would be a dead heart.
What you're beginning to understand is that Bitcoin isn't just some pet rock being marketed by crypto bros to make a quick buck. This is a protocol that's changing how the global macro financial system is working. And it is the escape valve to a dollar that's decreasing in value. We've heard it from Warren Buffett. We've heard it from ads on Coinbase, and we've heard it from crypto bros now. This isn't just a fad. It's time to pay attention, and it's time to pay attention before the global arms race heats up. Donald Trump already said that the U.S. is going to do it before China. But you're not naive. You don't do anything unless you hear the U.S. government bless it. And then you see this video from Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury.
Why is gold moving around the world in such huge quantities right now?
Well, a couple of things. It's moving. Physically, it's moving because of potential tariffs here. So, it was unclear whether we were going to exempt gold from tariffs, which I believe we have. So there was a big move out of vaults in Switzerland, out of vaults in London to get it into New York. And look, that there are a lot of different stores of value over time. Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. Gold has historically been a store of value.
And now this is you. Honey, get the checkbook. We're booking our tickets to Vegas to go to the Bitcoin conference from May 27th to May 29th at the Venetian Hotel. No, we're not going to be gambling on the fiat casino machines. We're taking every cent and we're buying every sat that we can. Oh, and use the promo code simply for 10% off when you book your tickets. It's okay if that's the journey that you're going on right now, because that's the journey that we all go on. We've all been there. And most of the people that are now deep into that journey started watching this show first. That's why you need to subscribe to the channel, because we drop fire like this every single day of the week. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.